Live music is everywhere in the UK. Every night, thousands of fans gather in venues across the country, from small back rooms to the nation's biggest arenas.
But behind every headline show and sold-out arena tour lies a much longer journey.
One that begins in the smallest venues and slowly builds upwards. For most artists, success isn't instant. It's built step by step, playing to small crowds, touring relentlessly, and hoping each show leads to the next opportunity.
For all artists, it starts in, a local grassroots music venue, whether that's as a fan or, actual musician.
These venues are what start off artists' careers and bands' careers, just because it's the first place bands and artists can go to grow.
Across the country, these venues give artists the chance to find their sound, build a following, and take the next step.
And that next step can often lead to some of the biggest stages in the country. Our journey begins at the Wedgewood Rooms in Portsmouth, a grassroots venue that's been at the heart of the local music scene for decades. Across the UK, venues like this are where live music truly begins, and every artist takes their first real steps into the industry. But while these venues are essential to the future of music, they often operate quietly in the background, rarely getting the recognition they deserve. From the artists that played their first gigs here to the staff working behind the scenes, grassroots venues rely on a small group of people to keep everything running all year round. Those stories are the ones which matter more than ever.
For my time, but we were part of the first Oasis tour in 1993 or 1994, and I think that just says it all. The history that this place has is incredible. I think we've been a good stepping stone for bands, and maybe more so in the past than recently, just iconic bands playing on this stage. I don't think it's something that should be lost. I just love the journey of booking a show on sale, then all the marketing, and then seeing it come to life. I think it's just so exciting. Got a great team here. Yeah, everyone just rallies together, lifts all the spirits. Yeah, it's a nice little family.
Yeah, the Wedge is a staple, always has been on the South Coast. It's an important venue for touring musicians, grassroots music venue, and it's been ridiculously important to a lot of people over the years. Everyone's doing it for the love of it, so you've got to love what you're doing, and I think it's good to remind yourself of that magic in the room when people are transfixed by what they're seeing. I think it's also important to remember that there are musicians at a level that just tour these kind of venues. So I think it's important to kind of remember that is a moment in time. Wet Leg was a moment in time. Everything else is just as important. You need real people doing amazing things in a building, shared experience. It's primal, you need it. And I think it's so important.
Grassroots venues like the Wedgewood Rooms have always operated on tight margins, but in recent years, pressures have intensified nationwide. The Music Venue Trust believe if grassroots music venues achieve recognition as important cultural venues, it would help them tackle many of the challenges they face.
I feel like the audience kind of involvement is a major part of the difference between this and, say, an arena.
The challenges are big. The music industry is different. I don't want to fall into the cliche trap of it saying it's worse, because there's still some amazing stuff out there and people are still into it, but they definitely consume music in a very different way. It's very disposable now.
On gig nights, there's a shift in focus from the challenges to the music, and before the doors open, a lot of work happens behind the scenes. Every show depends on a small team of people working quietly in the background to make every minute the best possible experience for the audience.
The time that goes into putting on a show, from the moment it's announced to the last song of the encore, really is There's a lot of work that goes into like advancing the show, getting the word out to people, bringing them down, set up the actual event. There's a show's more than just the day. You need small venues to kind of cut your teeth. If any of the bands playing arenas now didn't have small venues, then they wouldn't have the chance to kind of hone their craft or build a fan base to get to that point, and you'd just be playing to an empty hall.
Venues like the Wedgewood Rooms play a crucial role in helping artists develop, but building a career in live music isn't always straightforward. For many musicians like Mimi Rae, performing in spaces like this is only just the beginning.
I figured out how to be a musician from going to grassroots venues, from going to the Joiners, from going to the Wedgewood Rooms, Heartbreakers in Southampton as well. There's a level of intimacy where there's some people in the room that you know, there's some people you don't know, but you can see almost everybody that you're playing to, and I really like that because it keeps that like human element to the music. Like I find music, it's not just the sound, it's like an experience as well, and you can see all these people having the experience. I think it's so nice.
Moving beyond these smaller stages can be one of the biggest challenges an artist can face. So what does it actually take to make that next step? To understand that journey better, I spoke to Will Gamble, a content creator who spends much of his time at concerts and observing the modern music industry.
Will, it's great to chat to you. How important are small live venues for new artists trying to get their careers started?
The small venues are critical, I think, and they give artists their first chance. And I think this day and age, I've spoken to a lot of people in bands that are, proper bands, as I would say, now made a career out of it. And bands in particular at the moment are really struggling because the rising costs. Band Keo, they're like an indie band, rock band, and they have this fantastic strategy where they are purposefully selling out smaller venues to build up this hype and demand.
And for you as someone who talks about music online, how much influence do platforms like TikTok, YouTube and Instagram have on artists' success today?
Maybe a little bit too much at times. Obviously it's my whole career and I owe my whole career to the platform, but I do sometimes think that, we all know when you're on Instagram and TikTok that you need to be captured in that first split second. And if you're not, you swipe past it and you could miss out on some really good music. I think back to some of my favorite albums, which I would say are like pieces of art. They build up and then they build out kind of things. Those, we don't really see albums made like that anymore. Whereas now I find a lot of artists are writing music that capture or the chorus is and that's what they share on TikTok. So you miss the rest of the song.
And just finally, why do you think touring is such an important part of building a fan base?
They get to meet their fans, or the people that support them, and contact. Right, it's not physical contact, but that's what I call it when I go and do things, and meeting people, engaging with them. And for music, these artists are so talented. It's incredible, and they really get to prove their talent. I think when you get to see songs, albums, artists live, it really shows another dimension or another string to their bow.
It seems clear that while some artists struggle to move forwards, the grassroots scene itself continues to thrive, powered by venues across the UK.
Just along the south coast in Southampton, venues like the Joiners continue to play a vital role in supporting emerging artists.
Like many grassroots spaces, it's where new talent meets live audiences and the next steps of a musician's journey begin to take shape.
And like with every venue, behind the scenes there's a team working to bring the live music to life.
I've learnt a lot by being here into what a live show really takes and dedicates itself to. I think it first comes just reaching out to an artist or band, or having an artist or band reach out to you, and then going from there onwards. It's then setting up a date, setting up an idea and time in mind really, and when you want to put a show on. Joiners has been around for like so long. Like, it's one of the first venues I came to when I was younger, and can sense the history here just from the posters on the wall. But also it's when you go outside and look at the walls and see which artists have played here over their careers. Emerging artists come here and they see the history the Joiners has, and they want to progress with it. So they want to become, obviously, as big as the artists we've had here, but also they want to push themselves to go even further.
The best thing about my job is seeing the finished product at the end. After weeks of liaising with promoters and agents, trying to put on a show, and then you see it on the night, and everybody's having fun, and everyone's on a really good vibration. I think that's the best bit, seeing the finished result and seeing all the smiles in the crowd, knowing that they're enjoying the night and they're showing support for all these artists that we love across the country and locally as well. You can tell when bands are more seasoned to sort of touring and going around different venues, but the amount of passion that is put into what they play, that is the same with local shows as with bigger shows. The same amount of passion and work and sweat goes into their performances, and it shows.
Why do you think grassroots venues are so important to the wider music industry?
Because this is where artists first start off. Grassroots venues and artists in general would not be here if it wasn't because of these venues. These venues are what start off artists' careers and bands' careers, just because it's the first place bands and artists can go to grow. And not even just playing music, but seeing music themselves and supporting it. I think a lot of bands kind of forget the impact it comes to these days just by supporting one another. I think it's good bands are like so willing to put their own shows and support each other that way, but it's going to the shows first that really counts.
To work with emerging artists and see them go on to play bigger stages, tours and such, they really make a core memory when you see them on such a easy access venues such as the Joiners. You know, there's no barrier, you can get up close and personal, and I think to see them perform in this light and then to see them in even bigger lights, I think that is, again, rewarding.
So when you come to this venue, your worries or troubles are forgotten about. You come here for the music. You are to listen, you are part of the audience. Like, everyone who comes here, even on the average night, if it's a local showcase night or if it's a bigger band night, if it's a touring band, your worries and troubles can be forgotten here, and you can just be accepted as the audience and kind of have fun and kind of forget. And then as soon as you leave the venue, you go back to normal life. It's kind of just a time to kind of have fun and just live, really.
For the artists who do stand out, breaking through often depends on more than just live performance. Exposure, timing and audience all play a role in what happens next.
I guess the difference you see when you think of artists who are playing smaller venues compared to the ones who are playing the mid-sized venues is, well, kind of obvious ones like production quality, because there's so much cost involved, I imagine, when you're going from a smaller venue to a mid-sized one. It makes much more sense, and it feels much better for an artist to pack out a venue with a couple hundred capacity than to have 1,000 capacity and only have it half full. So I guess it's a combination of cost and having a fan base who will come to your gigs, because it's a difference, because it's different having a fan base online to then having a fan base who will actually come to your shows as well. That is it. It is a big difference. It's so important to support the whole live music ecosystem, from smaller venues, local venues, up to arenas, because if we didn't have these smaller local venues, we wouldn't have so many of the artists that we love. And without them, musicians aren't able to hone their craft, get their confidence, build up their fan base. It is vital that we still support local music venues.
Artists who do break through that barrier face the next step, and arguably one of the biggest, as they begin to play bigger rooms, reach new audiences, and take their music on the road.
The Electric Ballroom in the heart of Camden High Street. Inside, this is where things begin to change, especially for one band called Crystal Tides.
So the Electric Ballroom show, it's sort of hard to put into words really. Just as we was about to go on, just hearing the crowd and being like, Jesus Christ, this is going to be an absolutely incredible show. And then just stepping out to it and just the noise, like I said, our in-ear monitors, they block out sound completely, but the noise, they did not block out the crowd noise, and it was like, Jesus, this is so loud, but in a really good way. It was such a great feeling.
For all artists, it starts in, a local grassroots music venue, whether that's as a fan or, actual musician. Once you sort of start, that's the place where you either find your love for music or your first shows.
They've all got so much character, and they've all, each time you go to one of these small venues, they've all got their own story to tell, which is really, really nice. They're not just some big hollow room with a load of staff that don't sort of work the same shift, It's the people there can tell a story about the venue, and it's got so much more feel.
There's so much that happens in a gig, an actual live show, that doesn't happen in a rehearsal room, or, mistakes that make, and then actually that you learn, and that's where you cut your teeth, is an actual music venue with a live audience, whether that's 100 people, 1,000 people, or 10 people. It's how you sort of dictate success in some ways. You can't really lie about people in a room, whether they enjoy it or not, and it's to actually go out, see live music and react to a band is a real indication of where they're at in the industry and how that may look and how their future may look.
The feeling of actually having people interact with your music and sing along and move and clap along, that feeling is so real. And I think that's sort of, for me, that's what I chase. That is sort of everything about music. It's sort of what I want all the time. Everything that we do within Crystal Tides are for those moments.
With growing audiences and increased expectations, every show becomes a bigger opportunity.
It's just a buzz really, go to as many gigs as we can.
The most important part for me is about getting involved with the band.
I've always loved live music, always loved live gigs.
Getting down there, jumping up and down, having a good old sing-song and a dance, knowing all the words.
From small venues to touring stages, the journey through live music before even reaching arenas is anything but straightforward. For some musicians, it leads to bigger stages and wider audiences. For others, the journey remains closer to where it began. It's clear that live music is built on far more than just performance. It's a whole journey, shaped by small venues, dedicated people,
and the hope that the next step can lead to something bigger. Because beyond the stage, that's where the real journey begins.